What's up, everybody? It's Bryson Carter from the Journey Podcast. Just wanted to take a minute to clear up the fact that we are not professionals, and what you hear on this podcast is just opinions from people that really inspire me, and hopefully it'll bring the same amount of inspiration to you as well. But if you legit are struggling with depression or how you feel about yourself, please go see a professional. There are professionals out there that can help you, and we are not those professionals. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the podcast, and hopefully you guys can take something away from it that can help you on your day-to-day life journey.
Be a student more than anything and just try to learn. Just try to sit and soak it up, which I was, I think as a kid, a lot of times, like I was always trying to learn from people.
Oh, absolutely.
But just to reinstill that into me as a kid, like hey, like you don't know everything. There's so many people that know way much more than you. Just try to be a student. Try to just learn as much as you possibly can all the time.
Yep.
From people who do things that you enjoy or whatever it may be.
What's up, Journey family? Welcome back to episode number 7 of the Journey Podcast. Today I have with me a dear friend of me, Mason Sawtelle. He is a impact leader for the band and leads us in worship all the time. It's really great. He also has his own music out there, in case you want to listen to it, with some of his top songs being Necklace, I Wish I Was a Cowboy, and Double White Doors. And how have you been?
Good, man. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Just trying to keep this going.
Yeah.
Well, the first question I have to get this kicked off is, what is one way that you have overcome adversity in your life, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, I think whenever I was when you asked me to do the podcast, I was thinking about it, and I kind of came from a very traditional or Christian background.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to adversity, struggles, challenges, whatever it may be, I think a lot of my help just comes from the Lord.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how many of your listeners or viewers or whatever have a Christian background or are Christian or go to church. But I would just say trusting in the Lord and really believing in Him and knowing that He's going to work all the bad things for good for me, I think is the biggest, is where all my help comes from, I'd say.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you do a lot of like lead band stuff for Impact. So you try to you're in the presence of God a lot, I'm sure. But yeah, also I'm sure it gets a little monotonous sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think working at a church, there's so much of it that there's a lot of in the best way possible. There's a lot of sides to it that are struggling. They're kind of ugly. They're kind of business oriented or whatever you might want to say. But I would say for the most part, you got to just find the balance between, working at a church and, your own personal relationship with God, things like that. So
That's why I love the Summit Church. And if y'all haven't been to Summit Church, the Summit Church in Kernersville or Oak Ridge, it's really amazing. But I feel like the Summit does a really good job of kind of fleshing out some of the ugly stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Really put across the message of being the church, and Impact does too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
100%.
Yeah. So since you make music, what would you suggest to students in order to tap into the creative side of things? Because I would be honest, I'm not a creative person in most things with art and stuff, but being able to tap into creativity such as your future career goals and podcasting and stuff like that.
Yeah. Gosh, this kind of question topic gets into something that I think about all the time. And, I would say, I think something that a lot of people struggle with is trying to decipher what is their calling on their life.
Yeah.
And what God's will for their life is. And I think they're two separate things. And I learned this from a guy named Mike. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his last name. I think it's Doherty or something like that. I can't remember his name. He's from a band, a Christian band that I'm really blanking on the name of. I can pull it up here in a little bit. But he always talks about what is God's calling on your life, and I think a lot of us think that God's calling on our life is going to be those hobbies or the things that we're really interested in, which they are.
Yeah.
But callings can change day by day. So, for me, it's like the calling on my life was to be a worship leader for, this season that I'm in.
Yeah.
But that could change tomorrow. And so I think tapping into like what you're passionate about is just really sitting back and trying to find the middle ground of what really makes you happy and meeting the needs of other people. And I think those are the callings on your life. And those are where you're really going to get that drive and really grow in passion. So for me, like playing music, bass, drums, singing, whatever it may be, I love those things so much, but I also have to sit back and focus sometimes on not the performance aspect of it, but rather, you know, playing or worshiping for the togetherness of the congregation and for the true purpose of why we're all here to do this. And even if I was playing a gig that's not related to worship, it's the same thing. It's just always trying to be a disciple and just, again, meeting, like simply to put it, meeting like you having fun and the needs of other people, meeting right in the middle of that. And that's another thing that guy, I'll find his name at the end of this, we'll put it in or something. But I learned that from listening to some messages from him. And so I think your passions in your life, I think just praying about it, being trustful about it, and trying to use all of the things that you're interested in for a greater purpose, so, and I know like you've talked a little bit about that before and stuff up here in the green room and stuff. So I absolutely agree with that. And I think the will that God has for your life is just your heart and, loving first, like something the Summit always says a lot of the times, just loving first and being a good person and trying to get your heart in a posture, in a good place.
Yeah, so absolutely.
If that makes any sort of sense, if that answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
It did, but
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you said something about a calling. So what was you felt like your calling was 10 years ago? Because I feel like that changes.
yeah, no, I was just about to say, I think a calling, it's funny when I'm praying, on a daily basis, I pray all the time. I always, when I pray I pray those two separate parts. I pray about the will for my life, God, please help me, to continue to chase after the posture of my heart and give me the strength and the wisdom, to be a good person, to love first, to choose to love first, be a good disciple. And then the other part of that is the calling part. And it's just like, God, please help me to chase after the callings that you've placed on my life, whether it's day by day, month by month, or year by year. Or for me, for example, I've been lucky and blessed enough to have a calling that has lasted, 10 years of my life, from middle school to now being the worship leader for Impact. So just being a student who plays in the band to actually leading the worship, which I already consider two different callings in my life. But it's just like God can call you, like you said, day by day. Like tomorrow he could call me to go be, a carpenter or whatever, like something completely different from music or worship leading. But it's because God needs to use us wherever he needs to use us. And if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that callings do change day by day, and they can. And sometimes we're lucky enough for them to stay. I think it's like, God has these plans for us, to where for me being in, at Impact and being in the worship scene for so long was a long-term calling, because, I'm very dedicated to it. And, God knows us better than anybody. So I think, he sees whenever we're going to be there. I don't know. He knows where we need to be for however long it needs to be. So,
absolutely. That's awesome. There's a lot of people who it scares them when that happens. What would you say to those people?
Oh gosh. Well, I would say that it's funny because I'm scared of it too.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I feel like I've been, because whenever I used to think that a calling on your life in God's will for your life was like all the same thing. It was like God called me to be a worship leader or whatever, and that's my job forever, and that's my thing forever, and I want to do that forever, and I can't leave. And when I started learning about, I'm actually gonna, my phone's over there.
I wouldn't forget if you need to.
No, I will keep it rolling. Okay, yeah, but I'll find his name. It's I'll find it. We'll find it in a little. Yeah. Let me go for it. Let me
You just like,
I'm gonna go on to Safari. Let me see, Mike. Okay. So what were we talking about? We were talking about people who are scared when the calling changes on their life.
Yeah.
So again, I always thought that calling and a will for your life was like intertwined, and it's like God calls me to be this, and that's it forever, and like this is what my calling on my life has been, or whatever. When Mike Donnie,
Yeah, we'll go with that.
whatever his name is,
Yeah.
from 10th Avenue North, I came across him one day, and it was just a video of him talking about will for your life and calling on your life, and it's funny because it was just a reel. It was just an Instagram reel that like changed my life. Like it was.
That's also
I started following him and really like listening to like a lot of what he says. But long story short, I felt super convicted because I was like, oh my gosh, like I would be so upset if like the calling on my life changed tomorrow and God was like, you're not going to be a worship leader anymore. You're going to go do something else, or work in an office, or be a carpenter, or do something else. I don't know, whatever it might be. Um, but then, the more and more that I started to think about it, I was like, the more and more you trust God with your life, the more and more happy that you're going to be. And I think, you know, whether God changes the calling on your life or not, the will for your life always stays the same. So, God's will for your life is the posture of your heart. And so, whether you're a carpenter or a painter or a worship leader or a pilot or whatever it might be, you know, always try to find the things that you enjoy to do while meeting the needs for other people and listening to God. But whatever He puts you in, whatever, because He's gonna call. That's the thing, is like He's gonna call you to be that thing. So you'll feel that urge and that that wanting to go do it. But I guess, long story short, because I'm no pastor, but
no.
but I would say when we're scared about the callings in our life changing, or seasons in our life changing, or big changes, like for me, even just like my life, like right now, I'm finishing up college. Me and my girlfriend are like really starting to talk about Emily. Yeah, we're starting to talk about, getting engaged and like getting married and like trying to find a house and like start a life. And like that's terrifying. Like it's so terrifying because I'm so excited to have my own house. I'm so excited to be married. I'm so excited to have my own kids one day, to like just be like an adult. Like it sounds fun. It's like ever since you're a kid, you want to just be an adult and like do it. And so it sounds so much fun, but it's also terrifying.
Oh yeah.
And I think the same thing is with callings in our life and things that we do and new jobs that we're called to, or new chapters we're called to.
Yeah.
But again, to try my best to tie it all back, I could take some pointers from Jonathan on how to preach, but to try to tie it all back, all of those things are going to change. Like all of those callings on your life are going to change. The call to be a husband, the call to be a dad, the call to be a pilot, the call to be a worship leader, and then the next day call to be whatever else.
Yeah.
But the will for your life, God's will for your life, which is to always, chase after the posture of your heart, to have a good posture of heart, will always stay the same. So I think that's where I find my confidence. So to answer the question, if you're scared about the callings on your life, my recommendation and my advice and the way that I stay grounded is that the will for your life always stays the same. And if I always anchor myself on that, then I'll be fine. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. Yeah.
That's beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think people like take like you were saying, they kind of think that, because I think a calling and wanting to do something too, you should do what like stuff you want to do. Because there's a lot of people who are afraid to like jump in the water. I know high schoolers right now who they don't know what to do, and so some of them are not doing anything. They're like, I don't know where to go, so we got to jump in somewhere. You know?
No, absolutely, exactly, yeah. It's funny because I struggle with that too sometimes, of just being like I think everybody struggles with that. What do I really want to do? Or what, it's like I feel like some people are lucky enough to where they have that one thing in mind ever since they were a kid, and then they go to college and they go to school for that one thing, and then they get a job for that one thing, and then they retire as that one thing. But I think, like you said, you got to just find something that you really love. And I think sometimes we overthink that when it comes to like doing things or trying to find a job or trying to, whatever. I think we overthink it. It's just like, what makes you happy? Like, like what is it? Name something that makes you happy. What do you like to do? Whatever. And So, I've always just loved music. It's just like something I've always loved to do, and I've just been fascinated with it. Um, and yeah, but yeah, I think you're right. You gotta just jump in somewhere. And again, it comes back to that point of, you know, um, finding again the Mike Doney, whatever his last name is. He said that as well. It's like the calling on your life is, and I hope I'm reciting this correctly, but it's like it's meeting in the middle of what you really love to do and having fun, and then meeting the needs of other people. So if you're just doing what makes you happy, and this is like, by the way, I'm not like, you know, I'm not preaching this right now. This is all verbatim, so I don't want to take credit for any of this. But when you're just doing what makes you happy, and what is fun to you, then you're being greedy, you're being self-centered,
Yeah.
narcissistic.
Yeah.
But if you're just meeting the needs of other people, and you're just, helping constantly and being a yes man and saying yes all the time, and you're not having fun and you're not doing the fun things that God has called you to do as well, then now you're just being burned out.
Yeah.
And you're, putting stress on your life, and you're hurting your marriage, you're hurting your relationships with your family, you're hurting your relationships with your friends, you're hurting yourself creatively,
Yeah. Absolutely.
spiritually. And you can even get in a sticky situation there with your faith too, where you almost think that, oh well, God is calling me to just always be yes man and always be helping and always be there, which there's nothing wrong with helping, but it is, to me, I think the true callings on our life is meeting right there in the middle,
Yeah.
because that's when we have the best opportunity to, like, you know have our hearts in a great posture, because we're having fun, but we're also meeting the needs of other people, but we're not having like too much like fun to where it's like, it's not necessarily a amount of fun. It's just, it's your priorities. Like I said, if you're only focused on yourself, you're being a narcissist, right? And you're only being self-centered. But again, if you're focusing just on other people, you're not focusing on yourself enough, or your marriage enough, or your relationships enough. And he actually, it's funny because I didn't even think I was going to talk about him at all. And now I've like centered this entire around a reel, like a 2-minute long reel that I watched.
That's awesome. I need to research this guy.
You should. I'll send you the video.
Yeah.
Maybe you can link it or something in the bottom of this or whatever. But
Sure, absolutely.
but yeah, he even talked about, so he's in a Christian band called 10th Avenue North, and he talked about how, you know, he had that calling on his life to like be in a band, to go out and play and have fun, and spread these songs to people.
Yeah.
But then he was, when he was just focusing on that, he was hurting his relationship with his wife. And he felt convicted to stay home. And again, I'm kind of just saying this off of what I remember from the video, but
Yeah.
he kind of felt convicted to stay home. And he said something along the lines of like, sometimes like the worst no to you is the best no to someone else.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think it's all about balance. It's all about trying to find that sweet spot in the middle. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, like, I think it was Pastor Jonathan. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good. I was literally about to say it. I don't know what we were talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think Pastor Jonathan talked about it, or I heard it from somewhere. It might not be Pastor Jonathan, but I've heard it said before that too much of something is a bad thing. So like regardless of like, whether you're volunteering for a church, that's a great thing. But if you do it way too much, sometimes it could turn into a bad thing.
100%.
But
Yeah, I think that absolutely lines up with that whole thing of like trying to meet in the middle of having fun and doing what you're passionate about, because you really tap into your true self and the person that God created you to be.
absolutely.
And if you have too much of that, again, you're just focusing on yourself at that point, And I think the same thing is in like relationship to like, my girlfriend Emily, she'll tell me all the time, um, you know, she's like, when I tell her like, hey, I want to go like practice real quick, or I want to go like make a song real quick, or I'm just gonna go play my guitar real quick, whatever. She sometimes, whether she really wants me to or not, she just lets me do it.
Yeah.
Because she knows that that's what makes me happy and it's what makes me who I am. And same goes her hobbies and passions and things like that, where it's like maybe I don't really necessarily care. I know she doesn't care about the music that I'm playing or things I'm trying to explain, because it's just not anything she's really into. And same with the things that she's into. Sometimes I'm like, this isn't like my particular interest. I'm gonna like let you explain it to me. I'm gonna let you do it. But again, it just ties back to that whole thing. Like, if she was always letting me do what I wanted to do, guess what? I'm like a narcissist who always gets what he wants, and I'm doing, I'm only caring about myself and doing what I want all the time, and vice versa. But it's meeting in the middle, and I don't know. Again, it just comes back to balance and trying to meet the needs of other people and your significant other, your family member, your friend, and also having fun and really tapping into who you are as a person and what
Absolutely.
you do. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, giving it. I've heard it said like the best relationships are the ones where you give and take.
100%.
Yes, that's awesome. I'm happy for you guys. That's
Really cool. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. What is your motivation? Because it looks different for everybody, but everybody has a way of motivating themselves, or something that drives them forward.
Yeah. Well, I think I would be foolish to not say that it is God, and it is the feeling of love and peace and kindness and wholeness that I feel in my heart. And I know this isn't like necessarily a Christian podcast, or I don't know, like what you do or what your audience is like or whatever. But I would say that I think I get my motivation just from God, and just really trying to be a good person. I think.
Absolutely.
Just the best that I can. And I've failed many, many times. I've been a rude person before. I haven't been the kindest before. We all mess up. We're all human beings, and we all struggle with things. But I think it's just really trying to look inward and change those things about yourself, and really see the things, like the places where you go wrong and the things that you're doing wrong. Because again, I know people who are like, well, that's just the way my brain works, or, well, I'm just angry because blah, 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 and that's just the way I am. And it's like, anybody who says that, it ticks me off so much, because I'm like, that's not who you are. Not who God wants you to be. It's not who your family wants you to be. And again, there's nothing wrong with being frustrated or angry or upset about things, because we're humans. It's our human nature to feel those feelings, or to put up a wall, to be defensive, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But it's reflecting on yourself, seeing the places where you went wrong, and then trying to constantly better yourself and be a better person, and to love first, and to be kind, and just to be the best person that you know how to be, and try to be someone that other people want to talk to and like have a good conversation with and laugh with, and not someone who they're like, oh, I don't want to see that person, because I know how they act every time. Or every time I try to tell them something, this is how they respond, or they get angry, they get mad, or they're annoying, or they always try to one up me, or whatever it may be. And so my motivation is trying to not be that person, and to try to help people who are that way to not be that person as well, in the best way that I can. And I'm no counselor or mental health expert or therapist or preacher or whatever, but I just try to be a disciple, because
Absolutely.
we can all just be disciples. We don't have to be all these like labels or things, or experts to understand the word and listen to God and believe in him, to try to help people and try to be kind and try to love everybody as best as we can. So that's where I get my motivation from, is just trying to better myself. I think more than anything, that would be my one answer, would just be trying to better myself. and trying to love first. And it's funny because I always, that saying at the church, so for anybody who doesn't know, at the Summit Church, which is where I work, where we go, that was the motto, or that's kind of our motto, I guess you can call it, our slogan, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called. But it's love first. That's like our thing. So always love first, every situation, love first. And that always used to just go right over my head.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care about it. Like, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, love first, whatever. Like, I get it, bro. Like, come on, you could read it 1,000 times now.
Oh yeah.
But over this past year, is really when my relationship with God and myself really started to become good. I mean, which is wild because I think I always put on a good front. But this year is like the first year that I really have like tapped into myself and my heart, and like really listening to what God wants, or listening to God and what he wants from my life and everything like that. But again, I really just, like, one day I was praying and I just prayed that. I was like, God, help me to love first. And I was like, whoa. I was like, pause. Did I really just say that? Did I really just say what Jonathan and all these people have been saying for so long that I didn't really care about?
Yeah.
And that I just thought was like some cheesy little thing, so at first, whatever. But I like literally was just praying. My prayers, started to become way more intimate and real and like reflective. And I was like, God, please help me to love first. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just said it. And ever since, every single time I pray, that's like a big thing that I really pray about. It's just, please help me to love first in every single situation. And yeah, I can't even remember what the original question was, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Love first. And before I ask you a question responding to that, this podcast is like, it's not really set to one particular person. It's just whoever wants to listen to it is great. I
like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I advise, as a Christian myself, and it has changed my life. Like, you should try it. Like, come to Impact. It's 6:30, 7. It starts at 7, I think. Yeah. Like pretty much every Wednesday, and Mason will be up there on the band, and it's a fun time, and you get to tap into what being a Christian is like, and being able to worship with your fellow students, and we accept you no matter what. But
yeah, or check out the Summit on YouTube and watch some messages or whatever. This is no plug for the church or anything.
well, no, if not,
I love so many churches and so many youth groups and so many, whatever. But I watch a ton of podcasts, like the George Janko podcast you've probably seen on YouTube and stuff. And
I think I have.
And he's like very Christian oriented himself. Yeah. His podcast has gone a lot more towards like the Christian side of things, but he still has guests on that aren't Christian.
Yeah,
that whatever. And so yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I agree with not directing it towards like one target audience, but I think that's how we should be anyways as Christians, not targeting. Yeah. Because Jonathan said something about that too one time. Pastor Jonathan, he's the pastor at our church. If I remember correctly, I think he said something about that, one time where it was like, why would we want to be churching? Because that's kind of our thing at the Summit, and it's something we believe in, where it's like we're trying to be the church for the unchurched. Like we're the church.
Yeah,
we are the church for Christians, for churched people. I mean, you don't have to just have never come to church to come here.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
But it's like, why would we only want to be preaching or teaching to people who are already Christian, who are already saved? And now there's a lot of people who I think pretend they are Christian and saved, and that we do need to be really preaching to and talking to. But I just think there should never be, just in general in life, we should not just be talking to one group of people. It should always be everybody.
Absolutely.
And having conversations and like, especially as a disciple, just going to anybody and everybody to preach the word and tell them about Jesus and stuff like that. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's definitely not a plug for the church, because there is a church out there for someone, and the reason I keep advertising, or not really advertising, but like telling people about the Summit, is because we've been in environments before where people have been like, you have to be a certain way in order to come here. It shouldn't be that way, so it's I invite people to try it, but that's also that's awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't mean for this to feel like a Christian podcast.
No,
This episode to feel like a
no,
a message.
well, I invite it. I just,
Yeah.
I try to make sure I want to reach it out to people because if, like you said, we're not helping people that don't, if people that are not Christians,
Yeah,
don't get it,
100%
it's not.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But what is because this podcast is based on a positive growth mindset, which,
Yeah.
what is your definition of a positive growth mindset? And it don't have to be like Webster or anything, but your inner definition of what that is.
I think I would just tie it back to, trying to better yourself every day. I mean, just like reflecting on the things that are probably wrong and the things that you do that are wrong and the way you react to things, the way you treat people, and just trying to be the best person that you can be, I think.
Yeah.
I think everything else will follow, like whether it's health or trying to stay fit, or have a good career or make money or whatever it is. I think just like always trying to be thankful for everything, and always trying to just be the better person, the bigger person,
Yeah.
and really just love first. All the time, and just try your best to forgive, and always be humble, and which I'm not. I'm not always humble. So, and that's something too that I love talking about, or whenever I do have conversations like this or whatever, it's like, I would hate to pretend like just because like these are the things that I live by and the principles I live by, that I'm some sort of perfect person. And I know everybody knows that I'm not, but
Yeah.
I don't need to clarify that I'm not a perfect person. But it's just like these are the things that help me try to become a better person every day. So it's not like I just wake up every morning and I'm like, I'm gonna love first, and then I'm just the best person.
Oh yeah. They're laughing all the time.
Only Jesus is like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, constantly every single day, I always mess up. There's always places where I go wrong and places where I need to apologize for. And that's another thing too with having a positive, growth mindset, is apologizing and forgiving, and which are both really hard. But my mom, you know, growing up, I always had like a really she kind of taught me that a lot. So it's like, I would kind of go, if I was mad at her, whenever I'd go like decompress for a minute, and then I'd come back in her and be like, hey, I'm really sorry that, I did that or whatever. And that's just something that I always just kind of have stuck with, my life, even in older years. I'm only 21, so I'm not really that old, but, with my girlfriend, Emily, and my family, my sister, my dad, whatever, I always just, apologizing is a huge positive and growing thing. Yes, I think so. Just apologizing and like knowing where you went wrong, and just moving on from it after you've apologized. So
Yeah, absolutely.
but it's just things like that. Just trying to be a better person. Like it's like that's as simple as it is. It's like,
Oh yeah.
just try to be a better person. Like try to get, if you're an angry person, why are you angry? Are you justified for being angry? No. And so try to fix that. Are you frustrated? Are you trying to defend yourself? Why are you trying to defend yourself? That's another thing too, is like in relationships, in my relationship, in family relationships, whatever it may be, it's never, I guess another, good way to have a positive mindset is to always think about it as it's not you against the other person. It's not you against your family, you against your girlfriend, you against your wife, or me against you, or me against the world, right? It's like, it's all of us together. It's me and that person together trying to meet in the middle, like you said, and trying to, just cooperate and like find middle ground and try to meet the needs, because then again it circles all the way back to that thing of like you having fun, but meeting the needs of the other person or other people. It's all about that middle section where to me, like, my heart is in the best place because it's like I know that I'm meeting the needs of that person or my girlfriend or whoever it may be, or my family members or other people like the congregation or whatever.
Yeah.
But I also know that, like, I'm also having fun and, like, I'm also, like, having my opinion in things and whatever. Um, but even that, now that I say that out loud, like, one thing I always try to be better at is just being a student and just trying to just learn and listen more. I don't know what that was. There's someone here. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, just trying to be a student and trying to just listen. I feel like a lot of the times in the past, I used to just talk too much. I used to try to put my opinion in all the time. And I would try to convince people or convince, Emily, why I was right, or my mom or my sister, whoever, why I was right. Or, even here with struggles, because obviously working at a church, there are struggles with, teens and trying to, like, because there's always big ideas. And I mean, church is a huge responsibility. So everybody has their own little opinion. And I don't think opinions are bad, but the more that I'm just a student and just a listener and just trying to just soak it all up, I feel like I just feel so much better. So it's like, I think having your own opinions and being your own self is great. And,
Yeah.
I'm not saying not to do that, but I think a lot of the times just listening more than you speak is a great way to have a positive and growth mindset.
Absolutely.
And I'm still trying to learn that. I'm still trying to get better at that because I'm not that way a lot of the times. But that's one thing that I would say has, helped me. So, yeah.
Well, I don't think you ever arrive at it though. I think that's true. You constantly, part of a growth mindset is to constantly be like, okay, what can I work on?
100%.
I interviewed a girl I think it was a month ago. Finley was her name,
Yeah.
and she was talking. She said, I always go and I ask my family members, like, what can I work on? Like, what do y'all see in me that I don't see in myself that I can work on? I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, I need to do that because taking constructive criticism is very crucial as well.
100%.
And not only is this in like spiritual life, but like, you were sometimes your worst enemy. So
100%.
but
Yeah. And I like criticism too, like you said. And I think one thing that I kind of thought about the other day, or maybe a month ago, or whatever, I don't know what it was. So I play bass at main service and at Impact, and I really, really picked up the bass, like for real, seriously started picking it up like a year or two ago.
yeah,
Because the bass player for our youth band Gio left, and I needed to fill in to have the bass because I don't like putting in the tracks. I like it to sound real. And long story short, one thing led to another. I got obsessed with it, like bought a brand new bass, bought a bunch of pedals and all this cool stuff, and really just started to fall in love with it. But I started to really compare myself to the people that I watched online and like other bass players that I looked up to.
yeah,
And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I was just comparing myself and like feeling down about myself or whatever. But then it just hit me where I was like, you know what? I was like, I love, especially if I'm in an environment with a bunch of other musicians or whatever, or other people. Let's step it away from just music or bass. But being in a room full of other people who are wiser than you, it's like I would always rather be in that room than be in the room where like I'm the smartest person there.
yeah,
Because then I have nobody to learn from, nowhere to grow from, or whatever. So I don't know where I was really going with that point, but I think, like you said, taking criticism and being around people who can give you advice, and then not just being like, oh, I don't like your advice, never, but actually like really listening to it and be like, why does this person give me that advice? And there's gonna be people who are gonna give you advice that's like they really don't know what they're talking about, and that's all like gut instinct where it's like, okay, this person is just trying to be whatever. They're not really giving me advice. They're giving me advice to help me out or whatever. But it's more of a selfish reason on their end or whatever. And but then there's the other people where just in your gut, like, okay, this person gave me advice or told me I probably shouldn't do that or whatever. And it's like, why did that person say that? Like, let me think about why they would have said that, and then go over all of the different ways in which you can reflect on yourself at that point.
yeah.
To be like, maybe I shouldn't do that or whatever. If this is somebody that I really look up to and somebody who I really trust, why would they tell me not to do that or whatever? So yeah,
Absolutely.
taking criticism, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, and in ways with like life, and there's other instances like right now I'm in like physics class,
Yeah.
and I'm probably the stupidest student in that class. 'Cause it's like the well, you're the elite student. I shouldn't have took that class really because of like where my math and science grade was at. But I'm like, throw me in the class. It's a challenge. I want to try it. And but yeah, just learning from people like that because I have like friends in there that'll be like they're working with it like through it with me slowly. Yeah, they could be done like that, and there's me. It's like, but not only with that, but like my dad is a very wise guy, and so I base a lot of like what I do off of him too, like how I treat women and how I like don't give up when a task gets hard. There's a lot of people that will do that now,
100%.
but yeah, it's like you said, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
How do you use that growth mindset in order to overcome setbacks while pursuing goals in life?
Oh gosh. I think I think it's just all trust in the Lord and trust in yourself. I mean, I think it just comes down to that. I think it's like whenever you are trying to better yourself every day, at least you have that to fall back on. So when things go wrong or you're setback when you're pursuing a career or a goal or whatever, I think for me, that's just my sign to either keep working harder towards it or to just take it as a sign that like maybe that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And that was just me thinking that. But I always think about the fact that like, if the posture of my heart is in a good place and I'm always working after that and I'm always trying to make that, a priority, then all of the setbacks in my life and all the things that go wrong in my life isn't really much of a concern to me. Because as long as I've got that, that's God's will for my life. So it's like that's all that really, really matters to me. Because the callings on your life, the things that you're called to do, whether it's music or worship or pilot or whatever, those are just things that the reason God called you to do that was to give you joy and to meet the needs of other people.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
those are more of things that like God like needs you to do, or whatever. But the will for your life is what He wants for your life. So I don't know. I try to just have the posture of my heart in a good place at all times. So
That's awesome. That's good. Okay, so we'll kind of switch gears here a little bit.
okay, yeah.
What would you suggest to students like myself who are scared to chase their dreams?
Oh gosh.
Oh, it'll get deeper here in a minute, don't worry.
I think people who are scared to chase their dreams. I don't know because it's like I feel like I got lucky where I don't really know what my dream is just yet. And I feel like everything that I've had in life with being the worship leader at Impact and like just opportunities in my life, I've just had a very blessed life and lucky life. So it's like I've never had to do the whole like take the leap step yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would just say just having faith and having trust that things are gonna work out as long as you're trying to be the best person that you can be.
Yeah.
And if something makes you happy, again, just go for it. But make sure that you're trying to meet the needs of other people as well. And I've said that 1,000 times in
It's true.
this podcast. But I just think it all comes back to those very simple principles of just trying to become a better person every day, finding what you love to do, and meeting the middle ground. With meeting the needs of other people. And so whatever your dream is, just go for it. I get it. And it's like, what's the worst that can happen? But I think just being smart about things too.
Yeah.
And really trying to take a look at, what really is the things that like, I know that God has called in my life. And which sometimes it's hard to see those things.
Yeah.
But you know, again, that's why I think callings can change day to day, and the will of your life always stays the same. So just whatever your dream is, protect the will of God's will for your life first before any of your desires or like,
Yeah.
selfish desires, whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say to this? Because a lot of people, you said like you hadn't had to take that leap step yet, but I mean, in many ways you have. Like first time you were on stage and all that other stuff. What would you say to students who? Because I'm sure you've had moments on stage where it's like, oh, that was bad. I should have done better.
yeah.
What would you say to students who are like, or even people in general? It don't have to be just students. I know this is a students-based podcast, but there's a lot of people out there that when their dream isn't working out, they just can't see why isn't it happening yet, or like, should I keep going?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people?
I think I would just, for me, I would just tie it back to, when we pray, especially, or want something to happen in our life, it's better to pray for power and strength and endurance and wisdom rather than to treat God like a genie where you can just like rub the bottle and like wish for whatever you want and it just comes into play. Because I think, if God answered all of our prayers just like that and God, I want to do this in my life. Boom, all right, here you go, it's granted or whatever. Then, we would have no room to have any sort of faith to believe that things can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think for people who are like, well, this hasn't happened yet, I think it just leaves you way more room to be faithful and to be trusting in yourself and in God. And yeah, I think in relationships too, like a lot of people think, especially like middle schoolers, high schoolers, college age kids, like it's just like, God, I really want to date this girl or I really want to date this boy or whatever. And you're just sitting there hoping that God, again, is just going to like snap his fingers and like it's just there. And it's just going to be perfect forever. But a lot of people will realize, like, even if they do start to date that person, that like, oh, shoot, like we have arguments and we have troubles and frustrations and things like that.
Absolutely.
But it's all of those things in a relationship and in life that make you a better person. So again, I would say, I guess, to kind of bring it into one thought, if your dream hasn't come true yet or what you're chasing hasn't come true yet, that just means you have way more room to grow, way more room to trust in God, and way more room to better yourself and to try to become a better person. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
You were talking about first time on stage. How scary was it on your first time on stage?
Oh,
You went up there for the first time.
so first time ever that I went up on stage was playing drums for Impact when I was in 7th grade. That was the first time I was ever like on a stage.
That's cool.
And I mean, there's no other words than to just say terrifying.
Yeah.
But and the first time I ever led worship, I think I was in 9th or 10th grade, maybe 10th grade. I was terrified as well.
Yeah.
I played in a band as well for a long time. That was me and a couple of my best friends growing up and my cousin. And when we would go on stage for like the first time or, pretty much every time like we were there, it was terrifying, but it got way more comfortable. So now that I'm 21 years old, I've been leading the band for 3 years, every single Wednesday night. I get up there and it's just natural. But I think just throwing yourself into uncomfortable situations is really great sometimes. Most of the time. So that terrifying feeling is really good because it's like you get a really good read on something. Like you can get that read of like, oh my gosh, that was terrifying and I hated it and I never want to do that again. Or you get that feeling like I had where I was like, oh my gosh, that was terrifying, but like in the best way possible. I have like this adrenaline kick. Like that was just so much fun. That's awesome. I just want to do that forever.
Yeah.
And so I just, throwing yourself in those uncomfortable kind of nervous situations are always the best because they might lead to something better, you know, and just even like with conversations in life too, you know, having conversations with people. And I'm kind of like, the more I've gotten older, the more introverted I've gotten, to where like it's hard for me to have conversations. Not hard for me. I'm not an introvert, like,
Yeah.
but it's just where I get like nervous or whatever. And I'm like, hope I say the right things, or I hope whatever, I'm cool or whatever it might be. But again, just throwing myself into conversation and be like, hey, like, let's go get lunch. Let me go get lunch with this person who I like really look up to or whatever.
Absolutely.
And then I do. And then it's like, oh my gosh, that was great. And like now I like have a great relationship with this person. And now more opportunities come from that or whatever. So uncomfortable situations are great. Trying to be bold, trying to put yourself out there. And I don't do that all the time, but I definitely need to do that more. But yeah, I think it's great. So it's all to do. Yeah. Whatever you want to do, like go try it, go do it, go talk, go at least talk to somebody who does it or is interested in it. Or like when I wanted to first start playing in the band, and obviously I was in middle school, so you know I can't pretend like I was some smart genius back then.
Yeah.
But it was literally like this guy who was a lifeguard at my pool was the worship leader for Impact. And I just like boldly went up to him, and it was nervous. It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But I started talking to him, got his phone number, started texting him, and then very, very nervously came to Shadow one day and like just meet the whole band. And like me as a 7th grader with all these people I really look up to was terrifying.
Yeah.
But then you start to grow a relationship with them, and then people started giving me rides to the church on Wednesdays, and then I start, you know, growing relationships with them, and then one thing leads to another, and now you've gotten a little bit of an in with that group or whatever. So it's like it was very nerve-wracking, but it led to something great.
Yeah.
And I thought from the first situation of jumping into something, you'll be able to know like, okay, like I'm out, like I hated that.
Yeah.
Or you'll be able to tell like, oh, again, like, oh my gosh, that was so nerve-wracking, but like I just felt so alive. Like I felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things worth having are not easy to get, and like as in, or a lot of things like for me, self-confidence. Like
Yeah.
I love what you said about your conversations with people, because forever that was the most difficult thing for me.
Yeah.
To talk like we are right now, you would have never been able to get me to do that in the sick fit.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, being able to work through that, which I'm still working through things, trying to work through some socially awkwardness and trying to be more open and confident myself. Because you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I never knew that you were a cool guy until I got to know you." Yeah, so it's like being able to talk to people and talk to girls. My goodness, like 2 years ago, that was like the I would have rather died, I think. Yeah, but it's awesome. So I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm always trying to pray about and look for is a great conversation. Like it's just a good conversation with people. Like this has been awesome.
Yeah,
Daily, like always trying to go out to lunch with people or just talk to somebody in the lobby at church or wherever. You know, not necessarily like I'm not talking about like just hey, always go up to people and just have a conversation with them like in public or whatever. Like I'm not talking about that. If you want to do that, go ahead. But I'm just talking about like people who are close to you, who you know are meaningful to you, or friends and family. Just trying to have a good conversation with them and learn from them, because it helps you better your own self. And literally just simply by having people in my life that I look up to or that are kind to me, that I've had a great conversation with, motivates me all the time. Like I'll come to church or go wherever and have like a really solid conversation with somebody, and I'm like, dude, you know, I'll tell Emily all the time, I'm like, I just had a great conversation with this person. It was just so much fun.
Yeah.
And I just loved that, and it just motivated me, and I just love it. Like I just love having a great conversation
Oh, absolutely.
with people, getting to know them and sharing stories and just all of it. It's just great. It's so much fun. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So I got two final questions for you. It's getting a little bit cool. It's getting on there. We did 54 minutes. I don't know if it felt like that or not.
Yeah, that's a great easy.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's so much fun. Yeah. Oh, this is really cool. I love this like vibe. Like like I said, I mean, obviously I've never been on a podcast before, but super cool, dude. And like what you're doing is awesome. So
I appreciate that. I'm glad you came on.
dude, I'm gonna love it. And I this is so much fun, dude. I love this. Yeah,
It's cool.
yeah,
Well, I got two final questions, and I ask this one to every person that comes on here.
yeah.
But I call it the younger self question. So, if you got to meet your younger self, at any age from, I guess elementary school up until now, what well, you only got to see him one time, and then you didn't get to see him ever again. I know this changes, but
Yeah.
up until what you've been able to live and experience until this point, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to them?
I think, well, so it's funny because everything's come really full circle in this podcast, but I think the first one would give him that piece of advice of where, you know, there's a difference between God's calling on your life and God's will for your life.
Oh, yeah.
And so just trying to have that instilled in me at an earlier age would be great.
Yeah.
I think number 2 would be to be a student more than anything and just try to learn, just try to sit and soak it up, which I was, as I think as a kid, a lot of times, like I was always trying to learn from people,
Oh, absolutely.
but just to reinstill that into me as a kid, like just, hey, just like, you don't know everything. There's so many people that know way much more than you. Just try to be a student. Try to just learn as much as you possibly can all the time.
Yep.
From people who do things that you enjoy or whatever it may be. And I think number 3 would be just try to be kind and really, really try to love people first over everything, and really just try to forgive, apologize all the time, and really, every time you get mad, every time you get frustrated, every time you get snappy, or every time you do something that you know in your heart, in that gut feeling that was wrong, reflect on it. Like,
Yeah.
why did I get like that? And what can I do to not get like that? Even if I am mad or frustrated or whatever, or mad at my sister, right? Or like, whatever it may be as a kid or as a high school or middle school or whatever, why did I get like that? And, reflect on that and try to change that and try to just become a better person from it. I'll sneak in a 4th.
No, I'd absolutely go for it.
Like, just trusting, like,
Yeah.
the process. Like, literally just trusting the process. Like, I always used to get so frustrated about, like, what am I going to do in my life? Oh my gosh, like, I like all these girls and none of them like me back or whatever. But just trusting the process. And, because now I'm with my girlfriend, Emily, who, I'm going to be married to, within a year or 2, whatever it might be. Because, we want to get married soon.
Yeah.
At some point very soon in the future. But it's like, I look back at all of the other girls I liked or whatever that didn't work out, and I'm like, thank God, thank God it didn't work out. Thank God I'm with Emily now. And same with things like me trying to go off to school for a little while, and that didn't really work out because I couldn't really make my mind up. But if I never would have stayed, I never would have got this job here and like been doing this whole thing. And I don't know, just not being upset, just being thankful and just being happy through life, not being upset when things go wrong or go a different route. Because when things go a different route and you're being trusting in God, that's Him showing you the path that He really wants for your life. So
Absolutely.
I don't know, just trying to stay happy. Oh yeah, just trying to not to be upset about things when things go bad.
Absolutely.
Which I still got to work on today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you never arrive for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's never arrives. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, my last and final question for you is, how can I help you? Because I feel like a lot of people get into this mindset where, oh, I'm with them, and then you're with them, and it's like, another goal of this podcast is to be able to like let people realize that we're in this together. There don't matter if you're a Christian, not a Christian, if you believe certain ways that other people don't believe. It's like, we all got one goal, and we got to make it through this life together. So,
Yeah.
well, I guess we don't all got one goal, but we got to make it through this life together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so how can I help you be your best, just like you have me?
I think just continuing to be your authentic self. I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's just like when you meet in the middle of being your true authentic self, the person that God called you to be, and trying to better yourself every day and reflect on the things that are wrong, or the ways where you can improve yourself.
Yeah.
And then taking those two, meeting them together, and then just coming to Colin and Jack and Tori, whoever it might be, and just being yourself, being encouraging, being loving first. And I think too, like, loving first to me doesn't necessarily always have to be like, I'm just this positive, encouraging person who's always like talking like this and whatever. Like, we crack up in this career. Like, I find the crazy jokes sometimes.
Some of the conversations.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that is loving first. Like, all it was getting together and just laughing and just being friends and like just not like tearing each other down.
Yeah.
I think like loving first is everything but tearing other people down.
Yeah.
Or trying to put them beneath you. So I think no matter how you react to me or whatever, I think you help me by just being yourself and loving me first and loving all of us first. And again, whether that means like cracking up, joking, going crazy, like whether it is just having like a thoughtful conversation or an advice conversation, or whether it's a completely ridiculous conversation that has nothing to do with anything. I think just loving first and trying to be positive and just being yourself, absolutely can help me, and I can do that to help you. We can
Absolutely
help each other. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I've enjoyed a lot of times up here. I'm very thankful to be able to be like in the church now.
Yeah.
For a while I wasn't volunteering or anything, so being able to make friendships and stuff like that is pretty cool.
Dude, yeah. Absolutely. That's something I'm always thankful for. And that's just another thing, dude, just always trying to be thankful.
Oh yeah.
And being like, man, I have so many great people around me. And I love that. So
Yeah, with about one bad thing that happens, you can always think about 3 good things. Like, hey, have a play there.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, man.
Mason, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, dude.
And y'all are having me. Yeah, absolutely. Check out his music though. I don't know what all platforms you have it on. I know you have it on Spotify. Do you have it on any
I
other?
have it on pretty much everything. Kind of taking a little bit of a pause for a while and making my own stuff, but I'm trying to make some more stuff in the future. Really focusing on church right now.
Absolutely.
And being present there. But yeah, check it out. Check it out for sure. Yeah. And yeah.
Sure, I'll put like a link down there.
Sweet. Yeah.
So I've never done that before. That was kind of cool.
Link, and we're gonna try to find a link of Mike Doney's
Yeah. Well,
Instagram reel now.
yes. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much. Well, that concludes episode number 7. And the quote for this week is, create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe. And that's Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, thank you. Oprah Winfrey. To cut the middle of that out. Oprah Winfrey. Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening, and thank you, Mason, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Just remember, guys, to always outdo yourself and to be yourself. I'll see you guys next time.
Deuces.